Hey guys, how's it going? Srey here, and I'm back today with another How Good Is video. Today we're going to be featuring Greymane. Greymane is unique because he can play as both a ranged and melee hero, but he is generally classified as a ranged assassin. So, how good is Greymane? Well, there are basically three premier DPS heroes in the game. There is Genji, there is Gul'dan, and there is Greymane. Genji is normally picked or banned almost every game, so you won't really see him. Gul'dan is better on rotation-based maps generally, but not always. And Greymane fits pretty much in every other case. So Greymane is going to be good on the maps that Gul'dan is, but might be better on other maps that aren't as wave clear oriented. So Greymane still has really strong wave clear, but he's also really good at a bunch of other things. And the reason he's such a good DPS is because he fits in any comp that you want. He's good against any comp that the enemy team has. He's good in, if he has solo lane, he's good to wave clear. He has some of the highest single target DPS in the game, so that makes his camp clear really effective. It makes him really good on maps like Battlefield of Eternity when you have to kill the Immortal. He's really good on Infernal Shrines when you have to kill the little minions. And he's just a really strong all-around hero. He's also good in poke comps and he's good in dive comps. So you can't go wrong if you pick Greymane. He is a little bit has a little bit of a higher skill cap than most heroes. And in fact, it's probably definitely on the higher side if you look at most heroes. And but once you do master how to play Greymane, you'll never go wrong picking Greymane in your game, no matter what map, no matter what comp. So let's go over Greymane's basic abilities. Greymane has Gilnean Cocktail. It costs 70 mana, 10-second cooldown, and you hurl a flask that deals damage to the first target hit and explodes behind them for additional damage in a cone. Inner Beast is his W. It costs 70 mana, 20-second cooldown, and you gain 50% attack speed for 3 seconds. Basic attacks refresh this duration and reduce the cooldown of Inner Beast by 0.5 seconds. Let's go over his passive first before we read his E. Curse of the Worgen. Greymane can use certain abilities to shapeshift between a human and a Worgen. While human, Greymane's basic attacks are ranged. While Worgen, Greymane gains 10 armor. His basic attacks become melee but deal 40% more damage. So you can see here that Greymane is currently in human form and he's a ranged hero. So if I go up to this target dummy and attack it, you can see that my attacks are ranged. My Gilnean Cocktail looks like this. So you can see there's a splash behind the target. So if I summon the wave here really quickly, and I target the wave, you can see that the initial minion takes almost no damage, and the minions behind it take significantly more. So this is your main wave clear tool, but not your only wave clear tool. His W, when you activate it, you can see that he gains an attack speed debuff, and you can see the hit combo in the bottom left as well. And you can basically attack anytime within 3 seconds and it'll refresh the attack speed. So it's very important that when you do activate this, you do attack consistently because consistent attacks will reduce the cooldown once it fades away. I have cooldowns on here, so you can see that the cooldown would go to about 7 or 8 seconds with 12 hits, or was it 14 or something? And this also works when you use Dark Flight and go into your Worgen form. So Dark Flight costs 10 mana, and cooldown is 5 seconds. You shapeshift into a Worgen and leap at an enemy, dealing damage. So if I leap at an enemy, you turn into Worgen form. So there's only 2 ways to enter Worgen form. So if I exit here, you can either use Dark Flight to jump in, or you have a heroic ability level 10 that you can use that transforms you into a Worgen as well. So assuming you don't have the level 10 heroic, the only way to enter Worgen form is to hit E here. And then once you're in Worgen form, you have I guess 2 new abilities. Your Q is no longer the cocktail; it turns into Razor Swipe. 30 mana, 3-second cooldown, and you swipe in the targeted direction, dealing damage to enemies hit. And all it is basically this. So if I go up to these enemies here, you'll see that it's an AoE ability, and you can just Q every 3 seconds. His W is exactly the same, and it maintains and carries over, and disengages his E, so it costs no mana, cooldown of 5 seconds, and you roll away and shapeshift into a human. So if I activate my W here, and attack this target dummy, you'll see that when I jump into Worgen form, it still becomes active. And if I activate it while I'm in Worgen form, you can see that it still is active when I jump into human form. So how do you want to play Greymane? Well, you basically poke for the most part from afar until they get low, and then you jump in. You can also immediately jump into fights if there's no threat. So if you're in human form, you are always safer because you are at a distance, you're at a range. In this form, he has no mobility. So you can see that my QW, I can only run away from heroes when I'm in my human form. But if I'm in my Worgen form, you're actually a lot safer, but you can't attack at range. So if I'm in Worgen form, you can Q. It doesn't look like much, but the Q definitely helps to escape in situations. And you can also QE. You can also use disengage to get away. So if you're trying to run away from some enemies, you can jump away and then Q through, and you can keep running until your disengage comes up after 5 seconds, and you can keep queuing and E through. So you actually have quite a lot of mobility once you do get into Worgen form. If you are being jumped by an enemy as well, say you're about to get rooted by Arthas, you want to try and get into Worgen form as fast as possible. So let's say, for example, a Nubrak digs on you. I can't really show it here because I don't have a Nubrak that digs on me. Let's say this a Nubrak is about to dig on me or is just about to stun me. I want to make sure I get in Worgen form by tapping E as fast as possible. This gives me 10% damage reduction by being in Worgen form. And once the stun ends from whoever you're being charged at or hit by, you can Razor Swipe and disengage away. So that gives you some mobility. So that's just a little bit of a tip to keep you safe. So most of the time, you're going to be wanting to, this little speed thing, this indicator on here is a bug, I think, in try mode, so don't mind that. So in general, you're poking from ranged on Greymane. Say this wave come up, and your basic wave clear combo as well is, okay, you don't want to, first of all, you don't want to use Inner Beast unless you're actually sieging something consistently. Um, Unless you're sieging something consistently, or you're attacking heroes in a team fight. You never want to use Inner Beast unless you're actually doing consistent damage, and you'll get like 10 hits plus, even if at least 5 or something. So your general wave clear combo is your Q is QEW, so it's going to look like this. And you can see that at level 20 at least, it's going to pretty much instantly clear the wave, and then you can disengage away and mount up. Also note that if you mount up while you're in Worgen form, so if I mount like this, it'll just immediately transform me into a human. Your abilities are still put onto cooldown though, as if you use Dark Flight. Another minor thing is, let's say you do a mercenary camp. Let's say I just finished this camp, or I'm in Worgen form. Try to QE and then mount up. It actually saves you a little bit of time before rotating or something. So you usually want to use disengage, especially since it costs 0 mana. If you're in disengage, you can mount up. Oops, I didn't have mount up there. You can mount up as you disengage. Okay, turn minions off. Let's so in general, you want to stay in human form and basic attack from a range, unless you can go in for the kill, or you're not at risk of going in. You will always do more damage when you're in Worgen form. You can see that my basic attack here does 307 damage, and when I'm in Worgen form, my attack does 430. So you do significantly more damage, obviously 40% more damage in auto attacks when you're in human form. Or when you're in Worgen form, sorry, plus you have the additional damage of your Q, of your Razor Swipe. So you do a lot more damage in Worgen form. With Razor Swipe, it's probably just 50% more overall damage, but you're obviously more of a risk because you're closer to the enemy team. Or if you're against like an Arthas or something, you'll be constantly slowed. You're just at risk when you're in melee form and in the middle of a team fight. So only go in Worgen form to do damage if you're not at risk of dying. And then obviously it's going to be up to you to determine when that risk of dying occurs. So it's really important on Greymane to determine your limits and when you can dive and when you can commit to fights and when you can't. You know, when you can dive in and get a kill and get out, and when you just jump in and suicide because you don't know how much you can survive. So to that extent, it takes a lot of time to learn how to properly play Greymane. He's also, I think, one of the more mechanically intensive heroes. I think stutter stepping on Greymane, hitting your cocktails, you can see that the width of this skill shot is very, very slim. And if the initial damage on your Q obviously does nothing, you almost never, essentially never want to use Gilnean Cocktail for the first target here. You only want to use it for the splash damage. So if you're trying to actually hit a target, you want to make sure that you don't just throw the cocktail at the enemy hero. You want to make sure that you always try to hit it off something, whether it's a hero, whether it's the minions or a merc camp or something, or very, very commonly is the wall here. You always want to like hit it off the wall and you can hit heroes behind it. You can note that, see if I walk up to my gate here, you'll see that the gate opens up a bit. this is how you can tell if someone's behind the gate. So if I'm over here, the enemy team sees this, there's someone behind the gate. So that means you can just chuck a cocktail behind it. So you can see that when the minions open up, and if there's not supposed to be a minion wave here, and there's this opens up anyway, that means there's a hero standing right beside it. So you almost always get damage just by throwing your Q against the wall. There's also a lot of other scenarios. It's kind of specific to maps, but Battlefield of Eternity, you can throw it on the Immortal, especially when they're defending, or when you're sieging, you're going to have a lot of cocktail damage, or when you're defending when you're sieging the enemy Immortal as well. Basically, anytime you can hit something to hit several other heroes in the background. It's also really, really good on Infernal Shrines because of all the little minions on the shrines. You can get a lot of splash there as well. And several other maps you'll be able to do it as well. But again, make sure that you're not throwing your Q just to do the damage on the initial target. You always want to splash it. And learning to use this properly is one of the key parts to playing Greymane. If you're not using your cocktail pretty much on cooldown and getting splash damage, you're probably not playing it effectively. Let's actually go over abilities now. So toggle that off. Okay. Okay, so there's a very standard build here that I go on Greymane, and is pretty much universally taken. There is another build, but I don't really recommend it. This is the pretty much. I don't really, even at lower levels of play, I pretty much still see Greymanes going this exact build. Sometimes I might see a weird build, but what you want to do is you want to go cocktail build. So you want to get the cocktail at 1, 4, and 7. And then you can go, there's a couple of standard talents you take at 13, 16. And at level 10, I always go Cursed Bullet as well. And at level 20 is pretty standard. So Greymane is one of those heroes that has a very standard build, and you shouldn't really deviate from it. Especially if you're going cocktail build, like you'd never take one of these cocktail talents. You'd always take all 3 in combination. So just keep that as in your mind while I'm going over these talents. So level 1, we have Wolfheart. Increases the cooldown reduction for basic attacks during Inner Beast from 0.5 to 1 second. Perfect Aim increases Gilnean's cocktail range by 30% and refunds 50 mana if it hits a hero. So it costs 70 mana, so if you hit a hero, it only costs 20. And that's on the initial hit or the splash. Viciousness increases Inner Beast duration to 4 seconds from 3 and causes ability damage to also refresh the duration. Ability damage does not refresh the cooldown of Inner Beast, but it does refresh the duration. So if I look at my Q here, this is slightly longer than auto attack range, and then I get perfect aim. You can see that it's considerably longer. You can poke from much further distance, and on top of that, you basically never run out of mana. You will always run out of mana in fights, or just in general, you'll have significant mana problems, especially if you go cocktail build, if you don't take this talent. And it lets you poke a lot more effectively. So this is very, very important talent at level 1. The other talents are also quite good. Wolfheart is pretty decent, and Viciousness is pretty good. But since you're going cocktail build, and just the strength of this talent alone is so good, I really recommend that you do go this talent. And you always want to be hitting heroes, but if you're hitting a hero in the wave, you can simultaneously clear and hit a hero, do damage, and get your mana back as well. Level 4, we have Thick Skin. Using Darkflight grants 50 physical armor against the next 2 hero basic attacks while in Worgen form, reducing damage taken by 50%, so you just gain 2 block charges when you dive. Eyes in the Dark, disengage, grants stealth for 3 seconds. Insatiable, Inner Beast causes basic attacks to restore 10 mana. And Drought Overflow, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, increases Gilnean cocktail explosion length by 35%. So again, cocktail level 4, and if we take this, just so you can see level 1 here, with the base talent, that's the splash, and then with this talent at level 4, you can see the splash is much, much greater. And this actually, I feel like every tier for Greymane is actually quite significant, with 4 and 7 being quite good in particular. So you can splash quite far behind. It goes all the way around here and hits any hero in that radius. So it's a very, very large splash radius, and you can see that for level 7, it's incredibly important as well. So these other talents are pretty decent. I mean, Thick Skin is okay, Eyes in the Dark is okay, Insatiable is bad, especially since you have the mana refresh at level 1. Don't need this anyway. But Drought Overflow is just really, really powerful. And that's because at level 7, we can get Incendiary Elixir. So Quicksilver Bullets increases Greymane's human basic attack by 1.1. So his basic attack range is 5.5, so increases it to 6.6. It's a 20% increase. And it's pretty decent, but again, we're going to be going for this talent. So let's actually just read this talent right now. Every time Greymane hits an enemy hero with explosion damage from Gilnean Cocktail, increases its explosion damage by 15 up to 225. After hitting 15 heroes, the cooldown is also reduced by 4 seconds. This is one of the best quest talents in the game, and at level 20, it's going to increase the damage of your cocktail by, I believe, like 50% or almost 50%. And since you should have this completed far before 20, it's going to increase the damage of your cocktail by more than 50%. And it's going to reduce the cooldown from 10 seconds to 6 seconds. So it's a huge power spike once you finish this quest. And it's actually not that difficult. You can get multiple hits on uh, you can get multiple hits from a single cocktail. You can, if you're hitting like 2 or 3 every Q, you'll finish it very, very quickly. Obviously, on some maps, this is going to finish quicker than others, and in some situations, in some maps, it's going to finish quicker. So if you're playing very aggressive and the enemy is constantly hiding behind their walls, it's very easy to hit a Q on the enemy team. If it's a big map and they're constantly split, you're probably not going to get a lot of stacks aside from the person you're against in lane. If you're against Brax's hold down and you're sieging or defending, you get a lot of stacks again there. That's just a really, really strong talent, especially once you finish it. It's a big, big power spike, and it allows you to really have influential poke. Like when you have this quest done and you have the 1-4 talents as well, you have some of the best poke in the entire game. Like better than KT, better than a lot of other heroes. Well, not better than KT, but up there with KT. And it's going to really influence the outcome of the game once you finish this talent. Wizened Duelist is another quest talent. Hero takedowns increase basic attack damage by 3% up to 30%. This bonus is lost on death, so you need 10 kills to make it to get this, and then if you die, you lose them all. Even if you could stack this all up, well, if you could get 30% every game, it would probably be better than Incendiary, but it's just so difficult to actually uh, gain this, and if you die, you lose it all, where if you die with Incendiary, you don't lose all the stacks. In fact, you lose none. So Incendiary is just going to be a lot stronger here.
Choose a talent.
At level 10, we have Go for the Throat, and we have Cursed Bullet. So Go for the Throat is 90 mana, 80-second cooldown, leap at the enemy hero, and shapeshift into a Worgen, slashing for 778 damage. If this kills them, the ability can be used a second time within 10 seconds for free. And we have Cursed Bullet. Greymane shapeshifts into a human and fires a bullet that hits the first enemy hero in its path, dealing 40% of their current health in damage. Does not affect vehicles. And it costs 50 mana and 30-second cooldown. Okay, so let's look at the ability of Go for the Throat. So Go for the Throat is just burst damage. Oops. And if I'm in human form here, even if I don't use Dark Flight, it immediately transforms me into a Worgen and it deals damage. So Go for the Throat combined with an auto attack and Q is actually going to do quite a bit of burst damage. So you can see here that if I jump onto it, I hit my E there by mistake. You can get quite a lot of damage. You can do 1500 damage pretty much instantly. But you don't want to use this. You generally don't want to use this as an opener. You usually want to use it as a closer for the second time that you can cast it within 10 seconds for free if you get the finishing kill with it, or the killing blow. Generally, though, you won't really be able to get the killing blow, and you don't always want to save it. You might want to use it to jump in. But most of the time, you're going to be using this. You might get Go for the Throat if the enemy team has like several backline heroes, like 3 or 4 of them, and so they have like 3 ranged assassins, and then they also have like a Toronto healer or something, like something really, really, really squishy. That's the only time I would consider going Go for the Throat, is when the burst damage is actually effective. Otherwise, I would recommend going Cursed Bullet. And Cursed Bullet, I personally always take. I never go for the Throat. And 40% of current health is extremely high. It is such a high amount of damage, and the range is very long, and the cast time is kind of slow. The hitbox is slightly bigger than your Q, and it's going to do a considerable amount of damage. So let's say that it's a Falstad you're hitting, and you can do 40% of their max health, or of their current health, So usually you're using Curse Bullet on a high health target. Like if you're using it, you would never use this on a low health target, obviously. Um, but you can instantly kill tanks with this because of it does current health damage. And a lot of times in the beginning of fights, people are going to have max health anyway, and you can also just use this to poke. So Curse Bullet, just there's a lot of combos you can pull off with it as well. And note that if you jump into a fight, you can also Curse Bullet to transform into human form, and this allows for a lot of combo potentials. That the enemy might not expect, and then you can pull off. So I'll leave it up to you to discover all of them because there's quite a few. But generally, you can use if you're in Worgen form, you can use it to you can I mean can you obviously use it to just jump to a target here. So if I Curse Bullet, it's going to transform me into a human, then I can jump back to the target. Okay, no one saw that. So you can just jump back into a fight. Or you can use it as a gap closer. So remember that you can always jump into jump into a fight using Dark Flight after you've used Cursed Bullet to get out of Worgen form. So you can immediately re-engage. The most notable combo that you want to use it with is your Q. So let me turn on enemy hero here. Falstad, where are you? Just as a standard ranged hero. I'm also going to complete my quest for level 7 for the cocktail damage. It'll give you kind of an idea of what a combo looks like. Turn this off, turn this on. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to use your Curse Bullet first, and then you want to use your cocktail, and then you want to jump in. Okay. And that's pretty much the combo. Falstad wanted to be a little bit irritating there, so let me show you once again. And I'm going to take the range at level 13, which is a talent we'll go over in a minute. Basically gives me longer leap range. So the combo, again, you want to use Curse Bullet first, and then you can just kill the target. And you can pretty much one-hit ranged heroes. So even if go for the throat might do higher base damage if they have low health, but you can one-hit heroes if they're standing near a wave and you cocktail them. You can see that one cocktail here does pretty modest damage. It's going to generally do about 15 to 20, 10 to 20% of the hero's max health, depending on if they're a tank or a squishy target. So if you do 40%, and then even against a tank, you can instantly do half their health by using Curse Bullet and Cocktail. So you can see that it just does absurd damage. And even when you don't use this combo, let's say there's no minions around, right? You don't have to use Cocktail, you can still just jump in and go for a kill. And if you're using Inner Beast after that, you can just follow up pretty easily. And the other more important use of Curse Bullet is that you can just follow up on CC from your allies. So let's say that like you have an ETC in your team, and okay, this guy's gonna just follow me around for like the whole time. You have this ETC in your team and he stuns, you have a Mirrodin in a team, you're stuns, you can just instantly get a Curse Bullet and you can blow up a tank, you can blow up anyone. With this ability, it's a 30-second cooldown. You can just use this to poke. They're just behind a wall, there's just an Arthas that's poking you, you can literally just Curse Bullet him and walk away. It only costs 50 mana, it's a 30-second cooldown. It's gonna be up for the next fight pretty much all the time. Sometimes you can use it twice in a fight. So just be very, very, just use this even if you just do poke damage. Obviously, if they have like double support or if they have really good healing, it's probably not a good idea just to Curse Bullet. But if they don't have a healer around, that damage sticks a lot of the time, and it can save you for later in a fight. Especially if you're just Curse Bulleting to get them low, make them back or something. Just a very, very strong, very versatile heroic. And I would definitely recommend that you go this talent. You can also use that combo that I showed you when you're in Worgen form. So remember that since you want to Curse Bullet first, then it doesn't transform you into a human form. So if you, I don't have a file set here, but you can Q, Cocktail, and then you can jump in, right? And you can Q again or something. So you can also do the same combo when you're in Worgen form. And when you're doing it in Worgen form, that catches a lot of people off guard because they don't think that you can get to them because you'd have to disengage towards them. But you can use that combo. It's very, very effective. Okay, let's actually finish the rest of the talents here. So at level 13, I did take Running Wild, but we have Running Wild, which increases Dark Flight and disengages range by 35%. Visceral attacks, Worgen basic attacks reduce the cooldown of Razor Swipe by 1 second. On the Prowl, Inner Beast increases movement speed by 30% once it's been active for 3 seconds. And Unfettered Assault increases Razor Swipe's lunge distance by 60%. So I actually like three of these talents. Everything except Visceral Hero I think is quite good. Unfettered Assault, I'm actually not sure if I like that more or Running Wild. Running Wild is definitely standard in Greymane, but Unfettered Assault is actually quite strong. So if I reset talents here,
Choose a talent. Choose a
you can
talent.
see that my Q range is
Choose a talent.
substantially increased, and it actually gives you really good mobility. And I think this is really strong, especially in fights. And the cooldown on this is only 3 seconds, so you can actually use it just to get around places as well across the map. It's actually faster just to queue places a lot of the time. Like if you want to go from this camp to this camp, it's actually just faster to queue over there than to mount up and walk over or something like that. So at level 13, I go Running Wild, but you might want to go Unfettered as well. On the Prowl, it could be decent if you're actually getting a lot of auto attacks off and you're able to keep your passive up. Level 13, we have Eager Wolf, increases attack speed bonus of Inner Beast by an additional 40% once after it's been active for 4 seconds. Executioner, attacking hero that is slowed, rooted, or stunned increases the basic attack damage by 30% for 3 seconds. And Alpha Killer, Worgen basic attacks against heroes deal bonus damage equal to 3% of the hero's max health. So standard here, Executioner is definitely the best at this tier if you have any kind of CC on your team. Remember that Greymane has literally no CC on him. He doesn't have slow, he has nothing. So if you want to activate Executioner, you need the help of your allies. But even if you only have like an Arthas, he's gonna be able to slow plenty to get Executioner procs. Or if you have a Murden, or if you have uh, a Nubrak with Beta Barbs or a Stitches with Slam build, you'll be able to easily gain this proc. So you should, every game, you should be able to have at least something on your team to gain Executioner bonuses. If you don't, I'd recommend going Alpha Killer. It's generally better than Eager Wolf, uh, but it's if the enemy team, let's say, just has really squishy heroes and you don't have any attacks, any kind of debuffs to get Executioner procs, then you should go Eager Wolf.
Choose a
At
talent.
level 20, we have Unleashed, Greymane Roulette, or Greymane Relay. Damn it, I should have read this ahead of time. Hunter's Blunderbuss and Tooth and Claw. So Unleashed, if the free cast of Go for the Throat kills its target, another free cast is provided that deals 35% more damage up to 140%. So you could basically, in theory, reset off of all 4 heroes and killing the 5th with 140% additional damage, which is totally unrealistic. But maybe if they have like Vikings or something, it could be good in some kind of niche situation. But generally, I mean, I don't really go for the throat anyway. But I think this talent is pretty bad. Gilnean Roulette, Curse Bullet now hits all enemy heroes in its path and has its cooldown reduced by 5 seconds per hero hit. So it basically just pierces. I don't think the CDR is worth it or the piercing, but maybe if the enemy team is stacking really hard, or you have some kind of wobble potential with Void Prison, it could be decent. But the reason I don't like the pierce with this talent is because 100 Blunderbuss is just so good. Human basic attack splash for 100% damage behind the target. So you can see that if I attack here, my attack splash behind it. This is basically the same as Gillian Cocktail, but the range isn't quite as much. But it's very, very effective late game. Like it's a huge power spike for Greymane at level 20. And it's better than Tooth and Claw, which Worgen basic attacks cleave for 100% damage. So you can either have your immediate attacks do AoE damage in Worgen form, or you can have your ranged attacks do damage. And remember that when you're Worgen form, your attacks do 40% more damage, but you're still going to get a lot more basic attacks and a lot more effective basic attacks off with Hunter's Blunderbuss. There's some very, very niche games where you're super divey and the enemy team is all melee or something that you might be able to get more value from Tooth and Claw, but it's very, very rare, and you need like a D shield or something to actually gain value and stay alive in fights. Hunter's Blunderbuss is just much more solid, and it's really good for sieging and defending, which happens a lot late game as well. So that's pretty much the build. The other build that I mentioned that you could go would be Wolfheart, Thick Skin, or Eyes in the Dark, Wizened Duelist, and then go for the throat. And that's a little bit more of a dive-oriented build. Again, I don't think it's good as the build that I provided here, but it is another route that you could try and see how it works for you. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time.